Listen and subscribe to The Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts.
Bienvenidos a todos a la mesa de la verdad. Me llamo Cam. Conmigo está.
Me llamo Camarón, a.k.a. Camarones.
También.
Yeah, this is Josh. I don't speak Spanish, so you can go ahead with all of that.
También.
You do it in French, I got you.
And this D'Angelo, I don't speak Spanish either. Not that well, you know. I know
you were supposed to do the intro in Spanish. We weren't supposed to do it.
Yeah, I was like, bienvenidos, welcome.
Like,
Yo, man.
I heard the handoff. I heard the handoff. I was like, he's gonna hand it off to all of us like this. Oh, that bastard! You bastard!
I thought it was gonna be the Table of Truth, the official pod, not the side project.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guy.
Hey, yeah, I said I was going to do the intro in Espanol.
You did. That was the challenge, and
I've been on my Duolingo. Slowly but surely.
Accepted and exceeded, apparently.
I'm not mad.
You gotta be like, hola, buenos tardes, bienvenidos in la Table of Truth, but you gotta say Table of Truth in Spanish.
Right.
I know,
you
it's La Mesa de la Verdad.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's,
wow.
Yeah, I've been
okay.
Getting there, man. I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but it's been a daily thing, so I'm trying to work on it. It's been fun. I'm on my Duolingo streak.
That's what's up. Yeah.
Same. I saw you got your 50 day streak. I'm on a day 25, so I'm trying to get that 30 streak.
Yeah, it's hard.
We're slacking with the disgusting American single language.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, 1.5. I can understand most French. I just can't speak it nearly as well as I used to.
Yeah, now Duolingo's pretty dope, man.
I heard about it, and actually, I'm gonna actually get on that, but I'll do that later.
Yeah, no, I got the I did plus Cam. I just went ahead and got it because I was like, I'm gonna commit to it to try to do it. So it's been fun. I actually really like it. I'm trying to I figured Spanish is a little bit more useful as of right now, but like things I want to go back to pick up, like I want to get back on my Japanese. Like I was kind of on that for a while, and I kind of lost it, and then other things too. So we're not here about talk about languages. We're here to talk about some Expanse.
Good segue.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Is it broken patois?
The Belta Creole.
Yeah. Yake. What's up, Yake?
Yeah,
Boss man.
Hey, boss man.
Yeah.
Balteloda.
It took me a little bit to get used to it that first season because I was like, you guys sound like you're from the island.
I said the same thing.
But
I was like, man, cannot stand this. Like, what's going on right now? Like, I can't, it doesn't sound like legitimate. I don't know.
But you know what? They pulled it off because they stuck with it. I think that's the part that I was like, okay.
Yeah. And they're consistent. Like everybody who does it consistently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like even like Naomi, like she'll code switch. So she'll be around holding and everyone, and she'll have like quote unquote the Queen's English. And then when she gets back around her people, she switches. And so that was like, I thought that was pretty dope. So like they were really good with that. Like
except Amos.
Amos. Yeah, Amos will be fun.
Amos, no matter what setting he's in, he's Amos.
Amen.
All right, so the Expanse, it just wrapped this week. The final the season finale dropped for the 5th season. There's only 1 season left, which is crazy because there's like what you said, like the 9th book comes out this year.
The 9th book is released this year, and they have only covered, I think they with this last season, they still have about 3 more books to cover. So
good, great.
Be interested to see how they bring that home.
Oh wow!
And it's covering the same cast from the series, right?
Yeah.
Well, what was that, Cam?
Sorry, the 9 books is covering the pretty much the same cast from the series we're watching. You got 9 books.
So the books and the show are pretty much running parallel in terms of the major plot points and character stuff. So it's interesting because they had been doing like a book and a half per season. I did hear to the whole point of the season finale or next season being the end, that may not be the end. in actuality, that it may be like a pause until they can figure out how to proceed with the real end. But that's what I heard. I mean, but so far they've announced, like you said, it's the last season. So
yeah, nah. It's so we'll go roundtable of how we got into it. I got into it because I watched the first season with my girlfriend. It was really dope. Kind of fell off on it, kind of forgot about it. D'Angelo and Josh were both on some just like, yo, you got to catch up, blah, 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 blah. And then I finally did that late December. And so I pretty much caught up all the way until about season 5 started. So I got current. Cam, you kind of just hopped in recently as well.
Yeah, I came into it because I always heard Josh talking about 24. I was like, hey, this is probably a show I can finally chime in on because I'm not watching 24. It's too far beyond my time now to go back and watch that. But Josh hit me, DM me, and said, hey, you need to check this show out. And I was telling D'Angelo earlier, I was like, yeah, I remember he mentioned it, and I just didn't watch it for like a week and a half. I got bored, and Josh was like, we're talking about some other show. And I was like, hey, what was that show you told me to watch? And he said The Expanse. So I sat down, watched the first episode, and I immediately texted him back. I was like, yo, okay, this is what I'm doing. Because like first episode, they got right into it. And I had no clue what I was getting myself into. Josh had gave me something and said it was kind of like Babylon 5, but I don't remember Babylon 5. I just remember the show, but I didn't watch it. But when I got into The Expanse, I was like, okay, I get it. I see what I'm watching now. It's not Star Trek-ish, because Star Trek has like many themes where The Expanse is like there is an ongoing theme through each season, but you still have this bigger goal or means to it and they're trying to accomplish. So but that's how I came into it, from Josh's recommendation and Cam chiming in and co-signing it. So
and then Josh, you were you were down since day one?
No. Actually, I wasn't down since day one. My boy Omar, shout out to Omar, who is the guru for me of all things sci-fi, had been after me to watch it here and there, and then I guess it hit a high point. He was like, "Yo, you need to watch this. Like, I don't know why you're not watching it, but whatever it is that you're watching, like either finish it and then watch this, or stop watching what you're watching and watch this joint." And same as you guys, you know, once I like from the first episode, it kind of you're dropped into the middle of the world, sort of in progress already. It's not something that's sort of being built, you know, it's not an airplane being built in the sky. You can tell it's sort of like there's something to everything that's happening. And it just like, and so for me, Babylon 5 has been the holy grail of all science fiction. Like, I'm a huge Star Trek fan, have been since I was a little boy, but Babylon 5 has been the holy grail of science fiction for probably since it came out. There's nothing that's been better. There's nothing that's touched it in terms of like perfect circle narrative. And this is, I still need time to come down off of the season finale, but I got to tell you, man, I'm on the cusp of saying that Babylon 5 has been bested. After 30 years, I think ago it was on the air.
Been 30, I think, close to 30. Yeah.
I'm on the cusp of saying that Babylon 5 has been bested.
Yeah,
and that's saying a lot.
And then D, you actually read all the books and you're the one that's been in it the longest.
Yeah, so I had originally heard about The Expanse back when Game of Thrones was still on and popping, because it had been billed as the Game of Thrones in space, or A Song of Ice and Fire in space. So I had bought all the books years ago and refused to watch the show until I read the books, but I didn't have time to read the books, so I wasn't watching the show. Fast forward to Josh hitting me up, and he's like, man, you got to watch The Expanse. And I was like, oh, man, I'm planning on doing it, but I want to read the books first. And I think Josh told me, he's like, yeah, you could do that, but I think you should watch it. I think you should watch it. I think you should check it out. And I was like, okay, because Josh had recommended 3 shows to me at that point. Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, Ron Moore, and The Expanse. I chose to watch The Expanse first. Man, I feel Battlestar Galactica and Babylon 5 had some huge shoes to fill, because it's soon, much like you guys, as soon as I watched the first episode, I was hooked. From there, it took me a little bit to get used to Holden. Just because, I don't like Boy Scout protagonists. Like, I hate Superman, and so that took me a little bit of time to get used to. But once I got used to it and I was into it, it was just like full speed from there. Just like loved the show, and then I read the books, and the story with the books is like same with the show. Like I think I read the first book, put it down, and then kept watching the show, and then like. In between season 4 and 5, I remember I think I text both of you guys, Cam and Josh, and I was like, I'm gonna challenge myself to read all these damn books before the 5th season starts. And I just I blew through them, and it wasn't like a rush thing. It's just that's how well written and well paced they are. Like after I put down one book, I was like, yeah, let me keep going. I can't stop here, man. It's just too much. It's too much. And then before I knew it, 8 books, the next 7 books were read, and then season 5 was starting. And I still don't know how I did that, but probably because of COVID and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a great show. Great show.
Yeah, and I think the crazy part to me is just like getting into it and then starting to see all the narratives and how each individual season has its own kind of tone. So then like kind of like what Cam was talking about before, where he was just like, you can't really get real attached to any character, because like the moment you do, they're out.
Yeah.
And so it's like you got your core people, but anyone else around, they could come and go pretty much whenever. So there was some characters where I was like, oh, okay, she's cool. And oh, damn, she's dead already.
Well, I had reservations because I saw Thomas Jane, and I'm like not against Thomas Jane. It's just that fact. It's Thomas Jane, and he was the Punisher, and that left a bad taste in my mouth, for lack of a better term. And he's not a bad actor. Like Thomas Jane is cool, but my last memory of him was the terrible Punisher movie. But however, segue, he did make. Somebody made a fan flick of the Punisher.
Right, yeah, the
with
short.
him.
Yeah.
The short was actually cool.
I remember that, yeah.
So I don't want to totally shit on Thomas Jane, but I was like, okay, Thomas Jane, and I text Josh. I was like, just stay the course. Because I said first episode.
He did.
I texted him. I was like, bro, Thomas Jane, really? Like, is this where we're going? And after the first episode was done, I was like, okay, I see what you meant. I'm in. I think I probably was watching like 3 or 4 episodes per day until I stopped like season 5. I think I was like 3 episodes from the finale. Cam was like, hey, we're doing a pod. I was like, all right, I'm gonna finish tomorrow. Like, we'll just knock it out. Because I just told I didn't realize, I thought it was done. And so when I finally caught up, I was like, oh, they got more. So I was like, I don't want to watch. I'm gonna just wait till the end.
Yeah.
And I forgot about it like 2-3 weeks out, and then all of a sudden Cam was like, about the pod is done. I was like, all right, well now I'm gonna just binge those last few episodes. So it was worth my time. And like I said, I jumped in. I didn't understand any backstory, didn't read any books, and I can see that it's a world that it's already established in a sense. And to your comment, Josh, I'm just reading a Babylon 5 on Wikipedia. It's exactly like Babylon 5, based off the plot and setting and the cast of characters and the Earth and whatever the opposition is to the Earth on Babylon 5 and the Martians and the Belters, in contrast to the Expanse. So this is like a new version of Babylon 5. And I just realized all these people in Babylon 5 are extremely old now. Like
there's like 2 characters. There are 2 actors who've passed away. In that cast. That's how old.
They're all like 60s.
Yeah.
Well,
Babylon 5 is 30 years ago.
93.
93. Yeah.
I
was hoping no one would say the year.
But say that was the thing for Expanse, where I was like, I was watching The Expanse at the same time I was watching Star Trek Discovery. And so as I'm watching it, I'm seeing the parallels, and I'm like, yo, man, Star Trek is spoiled. They got transporters, shit's all nice, it's all glossy and shit. Like they can go from world to world, it's not a big deal. There's no and I think the realness of The Expanse makes it like space is the background villain through the whole series. One little pebble hits your suit, it's a fucking wrap, dude. You're dying. Debris
Space is undoubtedly the overarching antagonist in that story.
100%. And it also, I liked it because Expanse kind of parallels with what's going on in our current situation in the real world. And it shows 100 years from now, 200 years from now, we're still not a kumbaya utopia that Star Trek would want us to be. Expanse is we still got people, we have classism, there's racism, there's still people that are rich, there's still people that are poor, there's so I think I like that the Expanse has that realism where it's there's still people still trying to figure it out. There's no they just got into aliens. They're kind of and even in that, oh, hey, there's aliens. Some people are kind of like, oh, that's cool. Some people are like, who cares? Other people are like, okay, how can we use this to make money? The greatness of humans is still apparent. Where in Star Trek, that realm is very utopia. Hey, let's all come together for a common good and blah blah blah. And I think Discovery's third season kind of rips that up a little bit and kind of gives it a little bit more grittiness. But I think I like that the Expanse keeps that through the whole time, where it's you definitely see the classism that's going on, where Earth is still on the top, quote unquote. Mars is still trying to fight for that, and then the Belters are basically black people.
And the parallel with to Cam's point, the parallel between Babylon 5 and the Expanse is real. There is definitely a point where they sort of split off. But for the most part, that the whole essence of the Earth being sort of the focal point for everything and the jumping off point for everything that happens in the show, and it being sort of a natural outgrowth of everything that comes after, is definitely a heavy theme. Mars being the bastard child somehow is another recurring theme. There's a lot of parallels, but they're for each parallel, once you peel back even one layer of that onion, they definitely sort of split off on their own into very radically different directions.
So sorry. One thing I wanted to point out, and before you go, D'Angelo, is that we start off in a small microcosm of the world of Thomas Jane's character on Earth. And I thought that's where primarily the story was going to take place, on Earth, about some space cop, figuring it out, right? But then as the show progresses, you leave Earth, then you have this crew, then you take that, and then it goes into the Martian Earth Belter thing, and then it's aliens and a galaxy beyond the aliens, and we have a bigger world that where we started from and where it ended up is totally different. Now, D'Angelo, the one thing I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if the books go into this, I was always curious what happened to Thomas Jane's partner.
Was it the
Hispanic kid?
Yeah, he got hurt, but he lived, and then he
kind of exited the story.
Yeah.
Diogo. Oh yeah, he shows up so in the books he does disappear, but in the show he pops back up in season 3. He's on the ship with Ashford, and he's stealing one of the Martian. He steals Bobby's suit, and he's chasing Holden and Naomi when they're trying to get to the reactor. And Naomi drops the elevator on top of him because that was really the only way they could stop him in that Martian marine.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about
so
that.
He's dead now, but he popped back up in season 3 as a part of the OPA.
Okay.
As part of Ashford's crew. Yeah.
So he was never pure. He seemed like an innocent green rookie cop, and then he became part of
wait, no. You're talking about the cop. Yeah, you're talking about Havilah. I think you're talking about the kid.
Oh, the Belter.
No, I know about the kid.
Oh, the Belter.
Yeah. No. he doesn't. He shows up again in the books, but I think they combined his storyline with another character, and the show has kind of written him off.
Okay, not that he was important, but I was just like,
yeah.
You know, so he just disappeared. So I was curious if the books went into any depth about that.
Yeah, and like even like I think that every time someone joins the crew for like a small period of time, it's always for a reason, and that helps them push the narrative to go somewhere.
Yep.
So when the Asian cat came in to help find his daughter, that pushed them to get there so that they could find what was going on with the Puerto Rico. You know, so it's like every time someone joined, it would always be for a reason. If someone, even if it was only for like a short period of time,
right?
And then when they had the Avengers moment when Avasarala was with all of them and they kind of shared information and finally figured out what was going on, they can finally get a full world view. Like that shit was dope. So I like that they each season, like the narrative keeps pushing along, and like kind of like Josh was saying, you know, anything that happens will always get paid off by the end of the show, by the end of the season. So nothing's there by chance. Like there's always something there that's going to come back. Like, you know, we just get the final season finale, and you know the Martians came through with the whole fleet on some just like, and you find out that like, oh shit, we knew that they were working with Marcos, but then you didn't know the scale of it, and then now you get to see the actual scale, and you're like, oh, that was planted like episode 2 or some shit.
So one thing that bugs me about most shows that I'm really into, especially when they have some longevity to it, is when they switch actors. I didn't realize that Arvasala's husband was switched out.
I
saw a new guy, and I was just like, it didn't hit me until his untimely demise with the whole attack from Inaros, and I was like, wait a minute, the guy I remember from season 1 or 2 did not look like the guy that just got killed, and I'm like, why did they change? So I had to do my homework in that. And then if we fast forward, I'm jumping back and forth. The episode where Alex, spoiler alert, dies, right? And I'm like, why? So I had to look into it. I'm like, why do you like? Come to find out, he was being a naughty boy in real life. And they had to kill him off. But it's unfortunate because I actually like the growth of his character. I think everybody's character has some type of growth or change within them. Amos especially. Amos, I thought critical change came when he became friends, not with Alex, but with the Asian guy. I can't think of his name when he was trying to save his daughter. So I thought that was a pivotal moment. The excuse me for the names because it's still fresh, but I forget the main character Holden. His change came when he started to care, because he didn't care in the first season. You know,
he kind of had that typical like kind of like the white boy protagonist that's just like, I'm doing my thing, whatever, yada yada yada. And he was just like really annoying. Like it's saying it took me a minute to kind of like gel with the character, but I think as he started to care and he finally had like a full family and the Rossi and all that kind of stuff, then you started to see a little bit of transformation.
I already know what D'Angelo was gonna say.
I'm not gonna hate on Holden as much as I like to, but one thing I would say is that if you have chance to go back and rewatch season 1, pay more close attention to how they set him up. That inconsistency is still there right from the beginning, where he puts on this mask as if he doesn't care, but deep down he's driven by altruism. Like he's driven by doing the right thing because it's the right thing. So when they log the call, this distress call from the Scopuli, they all agree, no, we're not going to answer it. We're going to keep moving on. And he's like, no, he in front of everybody, he says, yeah, Cat, you heard Cap. We're moving on. His girlfriend wanted to log the call, but he said no. But then when he was by himself and he listened to the call again and he saw it, he logged it, and that's the reason why they had to go to the Scopuli, and that's the reason why all those things happened.
Everything after happened.
So, and that's really the fundamental of who he is. Like he pretends like he doesn't care.
So you saying the one character that didn't change, he was always who he was, is Holden.
Holden.
Yeah. Okay.
I kind of disagree with that, because I feel like there was the apathetic Holden in the beginning. Then he kind of moved into like super duper Boy Scout mode for a little while. And he sort of grew into and matured into the guy that we see by the time we get to about season 4-ish, where he's the guy in charge. Like, he's a proper captain of a crew in the ship, and sort of doling out, like which way, and everybody's listening to him in a different kind of way. By the time we get to season 5, dude is on some in UN meetings. You know what I mean?
Well, I just mean his base characterization, like that hasn't changed. Like, Superman is always the Boy Scout, always the Boy Scout. Holden is always even though you're right, there are times where his maturity is different in how he applies those decision-making skills, with it, but he's still gonna do the right thing no matter what.
Yeah, the Boy Scout shows up differently. The Boy Scout shows up in different ways, and it's not nearly as cloying and annoying as it is early on, where he's trying. I think once the facade, like you pointed out, D'Angelo, once the facade falls away and he's no longer trying to be apathetic, and he actually sort of lives into the caring guy that he is, who sort of has to now make decisions based on what's right and what's wrong. Once he embraces that fully, he becomes a much more enjoyable character.
Yeah. And can I say about season 5, just to point out this example of the change in Holden, one of my favorite moments is when he refuses Monica, and then he's listening to the call, and he re-listens to it, and when she says, "I have proof, proto-molecule," at first he's like, that don't have nothing to do with me. Then he goes to see her, and then when he finds her missing, and they're in Fred's office, and he's like, "Hold on, there's something's beeping," and Fred's like, "What'd you do?" He's like, "There was a button, I pushed it." He's like, "Is that how you go through life?" And so I love that at that point, the two of them who struggled through that before, where Holden is just like, "Oh, I got this information, I'm about to send it out to everybody," and Fred's like, "Slow your roll, boy. You're gonna start a war." And now they're kind of like sideways joking about it in a tense moment. That was like brilliant world development.
Yeah. Go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say, do you think Holden has kind of inherited certain traits from a majority of the characters that left an impression on him? Like,
definitely
with Amos, like when dude was getting beat up when they were trying to look for the camera footage, Naomi was talking to Holden, was like, "Why'd you let Amos beat him up?" And he was like, "Sometimes you got to get a little rough." Before that Holden wouldn't have existed.
Exactly.
He'd have been like, "Amos, what are you doing?" But now he became a little more ruthless, more cutthroat. He became a little bit more pragmatic. He also became like every character, like Alex. I think he took a trait from the more significant characters, Alex, Amos, the crew, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you see it in different scenarios, but it stood out when Amos was beating the crap out of that dude that was trying to hustle him for a chicken.
Oh yeah.
and
sociopath.
Yeah, and Holden was like, "Nah." He held Naomi. He was like, "Let him do his thing."
Yeah.
Sometimes this is the dirt. We got to get a little down and dirty sometimes. Yeah. But in season 1, that wouldn't have went down. He'd have been like super like, "Nah,
Absolutely.
let's not beat him up."
Yeah. He learned that from Miller, and you're right. He picks up a lot from Fred was his mentor, political mentor. Avasarala, like he learns, he picks up a lot from them, and just like and when she's like takes his arm, she's like, "Just walk with me and don't say nothing." Usually Holden would have been like, "Oh, what's
going on?"
Well, hey, would it be fair to say that he learned the game like from Game of Thrones? What's her name? How she learned the game? Because she went from being innocent.
Now I can't even think of her name.
Did Daenerys or
not Daenerys.
The daughter of
Sansa?
Yeah, Sansa.
Yeah.
After a fashion.
Yeah,
I would say less trial, but less
dramatic,
fire and torment, but definitely in the same sense that he had to go through some trauma to get to where he was. Where he didn't have to be raped
to figure out the world was real.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you count Miller, the proto-molecule messing with his brain, that's a violation.
Yeah. Well, and I think also too, for say for like going back for Amos, like Amos at the beginning was a true sociopath, like straight up, he'll probably murder everybody on the ship for some type of situation. But as the seasons go on, Amos's humanity kind of creeps back in because he has an actual nucleus of a family now. Like Holden and Naomi, they all kind of balance him out so he doesn't go too crazy. And then when he goes off on his own this season, goes to Earth, goes back to his old ways, he starts to switch back into his old ways where he would just kill people real quick. And then I'm going to kill him because I need that. And then now realizing like, oh, being with the Rocinante actually balances his crazy so that it makes him like value humans a little bit more. Same thing with the relationship with Praxis from the season before. Like, he was like, yo, I don't want you to kill someone because you're not that dude, but I am. So I'm cool.
Right.
Like, I don't want you to go on my path and having that like juxtaposition. So that shows that growth where he's like, not everyone needs to be like me, but then when there's these things that need to be done, I'll do that and be cool with that because I'm already there, you know?
Well, Amos thinks in black and white too.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely, absolutely. And I think D'Angelo, I think you were the one who pointed this out when you watched it, that he might be on the autism scale. I never even thought about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like they never, because everything is from the point of view of the actual character. So they never, Amos's scenes are so kind of like you get a little bit of information about him, but then you still don't get quite enough of who he is. Like nobody never says definitively why his name is Timothy and not actually Amos. Like they have that moment where they say, you know, what happened, but they, you know, every time it's like, okay, you should ask him about it. I wouldn't. Another character was saying I wouldn't ask him about it. So yeah, he definitely has that. I think he might be on that spectrum, but also because of his trauma and the fact that he was abused and what I guess
assaulted,
sold into sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, that affected him, and it turned. So I like to look at him as being like, whereas Clarissa was raised by sociopaths, you know, her wealthy parents, Jules Pierre Mao, who would sacrifice millions of people in the name of science, you know, versus Amos, who kind of was sort of traumatized into becoming a sociopath in order to survive. And I think one of the things I was going to say to Cam's earlier point about having gone through that development and to arrive to where he is at the beginning of season 5, even though he's no longer tethered to the Rocinante crew, they put him in scenes that allow us to see that he has truly come a long way. You know, he didn't kill the guys in the on the transport. You know, he beat them down, but he didn't kill them. I like when he shows up and the UN guys come up on him. He's like, first of all, they started it and they were all alive when I left. That's like, you know, it's like sociopath, but he has been tamed.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just keeps going. But to your point, when he's in Baltimore, as he remains there and he remains and he's in the churn, as he says, that begins to fall away to when we get to the scene where they kill the guy at the compound, and Clarissa afterwards is like, you know, let's say he didn't attack us. Let's say he offered what we needed, you know, or wasn't a threat at all. Would you still have killed him? And Amos is kind of like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
How
else is he gonna get what he has?
Exactly. and so
hashtag team sociopath.
Exactly. So that's when he realized, and I think that was like episode 7 or 8. Yo, I need to get back to my crew. Otherwise, if I stay here, and it's a lot of people are gonna die.
And it's a dope bit of self-awareness that he realizes, like, these are the people who sort of that Naomi, Holden, and Alex are sort of his guardrail.
Yeah,
totally true. And I think that's what was kind of cool, because then as the episodes progress, then Clarissa starts to be his guardrail now too. So that gives her a reason why she's there. Like, she's a sociopath but then she kind of balances him out where he's like, yo, we should kill these people. And she's like, wait, maybe we should talk. He's like, fine.
Yeah.
And that's why his old homie is like, what has she done to you, dude?
Yeah, exactly. He can't understand it.
Exactly.
But she's like, I'm a murderer, you know, like that's how we know each other. I tried to kill his friend and him.
And that was my favorite part. He was like, "Where do you find you?" She's like, "Oh, serving multiple life sentences for homicide." He's like, "All right."
And I love how he sets up the whole thing with bringing her aboard the Rossi.
Oh,
That was
I knew it though.
incredible.
So good. It's the same. It's literally the same way in the book.
We homies, right? You tried to kill me one time. Remember that? All right, cool. And we was cool after that, right? Okay, cool. So so Clarissa's gonna come on board. I know she tried to kill you before, but it's all good. I've squared it away. And she's gonna be joining us for a little while. But I know you cool about it because we were cool when you tried to kill me, right? Right. So happy trail, and she's coming on board in a second.
Dude.
And yeah.
So hilarious.
Do you guys know why he calls her Peaches?
No,
I forgot.
So you remember her alias was Melba Cole, and so when he met her, her name first meets her. Her name is Melba. Melba, if I'm not mistaken, is a type of peach, or it's another. Yeah, so that's why he calls her Peaches. And it was funny because I was waiting on them to when someone said, "Why does he call her Peaches?" I was waiting on someone to say that or her to say answers, but she doesn't even know that Melba is a peach.
Is that Melba is like a type of peach in real life, or is that like the space?
No, it's real.
No, it's a type of peach in real life. I looked it up. It's either the name of a peach or it's a type.
It's a type.
Yeah, it's a type of peach.
Yeah, D'Angelo goes deep. You gotta get used to that. D'Angelo will pull apart the onion.
Peach Melba recipe. That's a dessert. Okay.
Wow.
Melba. Yeah, there we go. Dessert. Yeah.
But I like that. Even that exchange where he was like, why does he call you Peaches? She's like, I don't know. She's like, why do you call him Timmy? He's like, because that's his name. And she's like, should I ask? And he's like,
no. If you want to continue the relationship, good.
However, she can hold her own against him.
Oh, yes,
true.
Yeah. She could probably kill him. Actually.
Yeah.
Very, very true.
Yeah. In the show, they tame it a little bit more. When she uses those implants during that period, in the book, it causes her to have seizures and all kind of stuff. Like she is literally not able to stand, let alone fly a ship. And like her body is so much more like slimmer and tinier, like almost skeletal. So they didn't make I forget the actress' names, like Nadine something or they didn't make her look like she had just been through the ringer at least.
Nadine Nicole.
Nadine Nicole, yes, Nadine Nicole.
So now about what now comes to Naomi. I want to say I like her.
I was gonna say you clearly setting this up so you can say what you want to say.
I want to say I like her, and the only reason I stick with her storyline because D'Angelo has told me she's important, so then that's why I stick with it. And she is important, but I think as this season progressed, I was just like, oh. It's like one stupid decision after another, and it just like continues down this path. And you're like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think as a dad, as a parent, I get it. I get some of the decisions he made.
Super valid.
Yeah, she's making parental decisions with her heart, and she wants to going after her. The smart person. If this was just some random dude. If this was a friend, you'd just be like, yo, so, that friend is with Marco now. And, I wish them well. And you don't chase after him. Her son being, the way that she left, the fact that Philip was this innocent kid when she left and left him with a nut job like Marco, it's been eating at her, and at some point, I can see as a parent, I can see somebody doubling back and being like, "Yo, I can't leave him with this guy. I gotta go get my kid."
Yeah, I think that's part of the the brilliance of the character development and the writing of the characters is that they make really human decisions. Stuff that we're like, man, why would you do that? You know who Marco is. You know what type of person he is. But at the same time, like Josh said, when she left Marco, she did everything she could to try to get Philip. he, being who he is, Marco, did
Manipulative in a way.
everything he could to keep Philip away from her,
Right.
to the point where, you know, they thought she was trying to commit suicide and all kind of things, and so she just had to leave. She knew Philip being with Marco was only going to end with him being killed. I mean, he just through conversation turned his son into probably the biggest multi-mass murderer in the history of the galaxy. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So you know, that story won't end. She knows that story won't end well for her son. So I think that's the frustrating part, I think, is that you see Naomi making better decisions in the very beginning of the series, more than any of the other characters, and especially keeping Holden from at times being Holden and messing everything up. But this is the one time in the series where she is literally the most vulnerable. Like, she's shown to be the most vulnerable. And I think that's why it's a little hard, because even when I was reading that, and a lot of that stuff that you see is from her point of view, her being a hard vacuum without a suit, like all that stuff, it was really gnarly to read, because it's like you're seeing this character be tortured based on some silly decisions that she's making. But at the same time, you understand how she got to that point. And I think that's what makes the story even more impactful, especially given the relationship dynamic and knowing that relationship between her and Philip is all but a lost cause at this point.
She is pretty much the Olivia Pope of the cast. Smart as a whip.
Yeah.
And like, she's gotten the crew out of some crazy situations just by her wit and ingenuity, because she's very integral to that team.
Yeah.
But then she has these like moments of like, why are you doing this? Like, you know, the inevitable is gonna happen.
Yeah.
She's Olivia Pope, smart
on
the outside, can do no wrong in the first early seasons, and then you just like, she keeps tripping over herself. But she's coming from the place of being a parent, trying to save, trying to have some saving grace and have some salvation by reclaiming her son, even though her charismatic ex-terrorist father has a spell over him, and that's all he knows. He wants to show and prove in front of his dad.
Yeah, Marco is the illest televangelist of all time.
Yeah.
Marco is so smooth, like that dude, and that's what that's the thing. That's why she was instantly afraid when, as soon as she saw that he was with Marco still, she's like, I know I got to get him, because you know, once that dude starts talking, like he could talk millions of people into like what they did, you know. So she knew what was up as soon as it was out that Marco was the dude.
You know, the dynamic kind of segue from Marco and Narls is I like the dynamic between Drummer and Klaus.
Oh God, yeah. That was my favorite pair. When they killed him off, I definitely my heart sank.
Yeah,
I mean, he went off like it was a fitting ending.
Surely,
because he still he pretty much was, and this is another Game of Thrones reference, went out like basically what's the old woman's name that she said let him know I was the one that killed him? Lady Olenna.
Yeah.
So he had his Lady Olenna moment by having the recording and Drummer knowing just her, and she knew something was up and something was a little off, that they had that little piece of information to further the investigation that further leads into Arasala to convince the committee like there's some other bigger sinister shit going on.
Yeah, right.
And I like that also too. It's like, you know, when his character's introduced, he's almost the antithesis of Drummer at first. So I'm like, you're thinking, okay, he's gonna take over. He's trying to get her out the way, and then the logical conclusion of that is either she kills him or he gets deposed or whatever, and then you don't hear from him again. But then they actually become friends. They respect each other. They have a certain level of kinship to each other. So like they trust each other as well. So then, you know, when they start to go off on their own paths, they still have each other's backs and that kind of aspect of it. And so them not floating Marco when they should have, but him going after him later is just like, oh shit. And then
Klaus wanted to float him or space him. Like, 'cause he knew his way of words is going to convince the allyship. But But the funny part was Drummer was thinking like old Klaus.
Yep.
Old Klaus is more diplomatic for the sake of the bigger picture. But in this instance, Klaus was like, "No, we got to space this.
We got to dead that cat
because I know what's about to go down."
You would have saved.
He also got. There was also kind of an implication that she was pseudo played by Fred Johnson in terms of like he put her out in terms like he knew that she would vote that way because there was something I forget. It was the thing with the ship where the UN the ship and he was able to then denounce it because they fed them that same intel about Marco. So I think she was kind of played a little bit in that situation, but you're right. Twice, yeah. So you're right. She was more taking the more political approach, whereas Ashford reverted to his more OPA pirate, like we space him right now because we let him get out there and he starts yapping, one turns into a million. So like you know,
and that's experience because he was a space pirate. He knew.
Yeah.
In a sense, I think he's kind of the same person.
Oh, absolutely.
He has a way with words. He knows how to have people rally, and it almost happened. But he corrected his new recruit when he was like, "I think you should be the captain of this ship." And he was like, "Look, I gotta respect Drummer because the ultimate goal is to unite the Belters,
right?
Be at peace. Even though you think I'm qualified, I probably know that I'm more qualified than Drummer. I'm not here to cause discourse." And he did it right there.
Exactly.
And so there was a change in his previous thoughts and aspirations to unite because initially, like I said, when Inaros was trapped, he was like, "I'm like, nah, I see the bigger picture." He was playing chess, and that just comes down to his experience in that world of being who he was. And Drummer is very experienced. She understands the game too, but she didn't see it the steps that would partake if we left this dude alive. Because as soon as he was let go, he killed the two factions that wanted him dead after he rose to power, which is crazy.
Super quick. That's what I'm saying. I think the Marcos was the first actual human villain they faced in this past, the whole show. Because everything else was
Marcos is human or is he a Belter?
Belter, sorry.
Belters are humans. They're a different. I hate to call them a subspecies of human, but they are kind of because they can't exist in the gravity well like a normal human. So they couldn't even step foot on Earth without possibly like dying instantly.
Well, so when Arasala had, I guess the one Belter, he was looking extremely gangly and tall.
Yeah, because he lived in a lifetime without any gravity, so his musculature.
So let me ask you this. So from the book, what is the physical attributes of a Belter? Like, are they like 7 feet tall or something like that? Or?
They vary in height, but their most physical attribute is like the best example I can give based on the book description and how the show is trying to be consistent is Philip. The way he looks, like very tall, gaunt, like long limbs. So
that's why they call them skinnies.
That's why they call them skinnies. Yeah. Because they have a different metabolism. That's why I said I don't like to call them a subspecies, but they kind of are because humans went out and colonized the belt, and then their children and children's children eventually become the belt.
And same thing with Martians and the same thing. Because that's why when Naomi was on from the previous season, when she was on that planet, she was having such a hard time because like they were saying, they were giving her meds to to conform to it and all that kind of stuff. And she just wasn't taking it. It just wasn't working for her. And then even when Holden went back to Earth and she stayed in the ship and she didn't come down because she probably would not have been able to freaking walk. Earth,
it's the same with the Martians the same way. Remember when Bobby first set foot? They had the whole joke about the Earthers laughing at the Martian delegates because when they step off the ship, they get sick and they throw up because I think they were saying that the gravity on Mars is, I guess, a little less denser. I don't know exactly what it is, but so it's the same thing, which is why they have to train in that gravity level and with the intent of one day invading Earth because they can't walk on Earth. You know?
Yeah, the training on Earth wasn't the intent of like I'm gonna visit Earth. It's for the eventual invasion of Earth.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna take the Earth, which is what Marco would have been the best thing for Marco to do instead of dropping the rock on the seed for which humanity sprouted. You know, Earth is still the only planet that, you know, the ring gates are open, but it's the only planet that has known resources that carbon-based and specifically humans need to survive. So taking out the Earth without an alternative to that is very, very short-sighted.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's part of the reason why I was kind of going to make the move to the rings, and so that's what makes it even more interesting. Right. So I think that those aspects of it is where, you know, by showing those different classes, and then also how, you know, a couple seasons before where the Martians had to switch from being, you know, a warlike overall society to now they're kind of peacetime. And so now everyone's like, okay, we don't gotta freaking train like we're gonna be at a war all the time. Now we have to train. Yeah, we have to transition. There's the rings, there's other stuff. And so I like that they showed that like some people were about it and other people were like, nah, fuck that. I trained my whole life to kill people and I want to go heal people.
So there's two things to that, because that's part of the thing that drove to what we saw with the Martians. The other thing is the fact that the whole dream of Mars is this idea that they can terraform that planet and turn it into a new Earth with an actual biosphere with breathable air, water, all that stuff. There have been several generations that started that project, lived and died. And so the other alternative to that is preparing for invasion of Earth, military fight. Once that both of those things, and then so the ring gates open up, that completely, with all those worlds over there, that completely negates the terraform project. Like that's like, why would I force my children to grow up in a dome and with this idea that we can turn this planet into a paradise, knowing that there are several hundred generations died trying to do that, but I have to go through the ring gate, set up on a new planet with all the resources, and that's it. Forget Mars.
Well, that was kind of touched on in the season where we find Bobby as she's working on the plant. And then she got caught her into doing some dirt for the cop. But the cop, once they got cool, the cop was telling us like, "Look, man, Mars is done. Like, I'm trying to find a new life. I'm saving my money. I'm about to bounce," which is another red herring because you end up finding he's actually not that bad of a cop.
Yeah.
But at this point, he's out to protect himself and his family.
Yeah.
It just sucks that the situation turned out where he is because he looked at Bobby as like, hey, you're very good at what you do. You're good peoples. I feel like we can be profitable. But at the end of the day, he was looking out for his own, but it really was looking out for his family. He's a family guy.
Right.
But we were introduced to him as like a cutthroat cop, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that I like that basically anyone that shows up in the narrative, there's a little bit level. There's at least a little bit of a level. So you never see like, there's not just like, oh, the asshole kid, the corrupt cop.
Yeah, there's no throwaways.
Right. Yeah, like even if they're just there for like a little bit, there's a little bit of a layer.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, interesting. You're, and even the socialite that recognized Clarissa Mao, and she was kind of like, oh, that's Clarissa Mao. Yeah, and she said, we used to run around. We were doing some dumb shit, but I'm trying to be better. I want to be helping people. That's why I'm here. And I thought that was cool. She ended up dying, but it shows like a character that could have been a really throwaway, like, oh, you're just a socialite, really silly, still had some type of a layer of depth where they're just like, well, she is trying to evolve and try to be a better person. That's why she's there at that particular reason.
Tilly Fagan, that was her name. Tilly
Fagan.
Right.
Love that actress that played it.
I feel like so there's a running bit of commentary that me, Cam, and D'Angelo have about certain shows. And it always ends with or begins with, just one line of dialogue would have ... Like it would have explained something. It would have carried a scene in a different direction. And I feel like that whole episode, that whole season finale was all just one line of dialogue to get something moving. Another line of dialogue to get a different thing moving. If you rewatch that, it's just like at least half of that episode is all one line of dialogue to move something forward, right up to the end. Even with Marco turning the Mars Navy around, One line of dialogue. Yo, I need you to come with me. They get in the room. They're in the room. Yo, those are our ships. No, they're not our ships. Like it just keeps moving. It just keeps moving, and it's all one line. And
what I loved about that scene is that was the payoff of season 4 and 5, because season 4, and it's like Cam, you brought up earlier, Bobby's storyline, and with the cop. That's the payoff to what was happening through that whole situation where they were selling weapons to them and they were setting up this, because if I'm not mistaken, and the producers, directors were good at this. Philip is in that scene where Bobby, when the dude gets shot. In fact, he was there. I left something for you, bitch, or something like that. And then he does this to Bobby as the elevator doors close.
Yeah, he was part of the Belters that were pulling them away. Yep.
Yeah.
Wait. Register. That did not register.
Go back to season 4 and go to that scene where Bobby comes with the trap, where Bobby comes with the cops to make the final deal, and it goes wrong. And when she comes back in to try to help them, you hear a voice say, "I left you something, bitch," or something like that, and it's a bomb. And when she looks up, there's Philip in the elevator as the doors close. He's doing the Belter.
He's doing the Belter thing. I did not realize that was him.
Wait. What's the significance of that? I'm missing something.
Well, the significance is that we didn't know at the time that the Belters and the Martians, specifically Anaros' faction, was getting weapons like stealth and all this stuff from the Martians. And Bobby was the sort of the anchor, because after that, she immediately goes to Al-Basarales like, yo, this is legit. Like this, it's not just them selling to other Martians; they're selling to Belters. Like this is a whole nother thing.
And specifically to Marco,
and specifically to Marco. Even though Bobby wouldn't know that was a little nugget for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's kind of crazy, because I think even with now looking back for the last season, with that company that was like on the ring planet trying to terraform it and do that and do all these samples and stuff, that kind of plants the seeds that like all these other factions are starting to vie for the ring planets to start to terraform their own situation outside of the Belters. The Belters are there like, let's build a better life, family, Everyone else is like, yo, there's mad resources, we can make mad money, we can do blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great, man. It was just like the last episode was just like a rush.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I was laughing because I was telling them, it was like, when everything was all happy, everybody's like, oh, we got a drink, we're in a lounge, we're cheersing, and I was like, wait a minute, there's like 10 minutes left of the show.
I immediately, when everybody was chilling, I got a feeling in the pit of my stomach like something bad is about to happen. And I thought this is to tell you where my brain goes. I thought they were gonna attack Luna. I thought that there was gonna be an attack on we're chilling, oh my god, there's another rock. You know what I mean? There's another asteroid about to, blow up half of Luna.
Yeah. See, I knew they weren't gonna attack Luna. I just couldn't remember. And this is the thing, I read the books, but I couldn't remember exactly what was happening, what was gonna happen until it was happening, and then then I remember what happened in that moment or whatever. But yeah,
and then I was gonna ask one thing: is the Bobby's dude? Did he go to Palace or Peleus?
The one she was dating,
military dude?
No, the dude she met when she was working construction.
Yeah, that dude. Yeah, he was like Did he go to the Palace station?
He's Mars Navy. I don't think he.
Yeah.
He did go to,
or did he go to
Jupiter to one of the moons?
Oh, you know what? You're right. I think he went to Jupiter. Okay, that's what I was
to Europa, I think, but I don't know. I think Palace may be near Europa if I'm not mistaken. They are, all of those stations are near Jupiter's most of Jupiter's moons.
And and then now we can wrap up with our dear departed friend Alex.
Oh man.
Okay, hold on. So before we even jump into this, is it confirmed that Arasala's husband is dead? Because we never see him die.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah,
he's dead.
Okay.
He's dead.
Because I I was a little confused because
Yeah.
even with the former UN or president, whatever she is,
Yeah.
the Asian woman, we assumed she died, but we didn't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
That's the same thing.
I was just gonna say, like, I was thinking that too, but then I was like, but the Expanse is so real when it comes to science. The idea of her being able to survive that blast radius from that rock, I was
At
like,
that
to your point about the husband, though, that one,
I'm still up in the air.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, what made me convinced that she was dead was when Amos and Peaches escaped the prison. They finally got to the top.
Oh yeah, and everything.
And then you see the devastation of what, and then I was like, okay, she dead.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still don't know about Arasala's husband.
Yeah,
because there was no confirmation. It's
Right.
just assumed he's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but I think like all the Earth folks that shit was pretty tragic. But yeah, as I was saying, we talked about all the characters on the crew. Alex is the last one left on purpose. Personally, one of my favorite characters of the whole show. I think his trajectory from the beginning all the way to the end was awesome, and I think he was a good glue to he was that bump of positivity to kind of help everyone in their doom and gloom. And every time they're on, he's the one that's cooking for everyone. And when you have random ass people on the ship, he was the one that kind of gelled it and kind of had injected a little humanity into their crazy ass circumstance.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's a shitty human being. So
allegedly, I don't know.
Allegedly.
A lot of allegations, but we'll just leave it there. But
So, but I think as I was telling these guys, I was like, the way they handled his character is probably better than pretty much any other shitty actor with a beloved character I've seen on screen. Because normally you're dead off screen, and Kevin Spacey in House of Cards, boom, done. He died, and then they kept it moving. This one they actually, and I was reading up on it. Yeah, they actually brought him back in to do that last scene, and I thought that was actually pretty good. And as kind of like Cam was saying, he didn't know any of that stuff in the background, so he was like, oh shit, I was curious. We knew about this. This was this happened late summer when all this started popping off. I think it was.
Either late summer or I think it had started. There was buzz about it even before that, because there was talk about that before they even renewed the season. He wasn't fired. He was fired after they renewed the season. If I'm not mistaken, or maybe before. I don't remember, but it was something like last year, maybe early last year or something like that.
It was just weird because I look at him and he has this cowboy accent. And it was just throwing me off. And I wanted some backstory of why he's all about the cowboy. And the only thing I got was when he went to that bar.
Yeah.
I was like, there has to be a story behind him being all cowboyish. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't get I was just like, man, this is weird. Because I know he not. Unless he super into diehard spaghetti westerns and into that genre, I couldn't figure out why he had all these western cowboy references, like everything, even to the bar. And even when Bobby walked in, she was like, "What the hell is this?"
I laughed at that scene too, especially the song. But so the history with that is he's from Mariner Valley in Mars, so. The backstory is that Mariner Valley was mostly settled by Indian Americans who were living in Texas at the time, and they settled. They basically a large Asian American contingency settled Mars, specifically the Mariner Valley, and they brought a lot of Texas cultural iconography that just kind of started to get more corny over time, because obviously the further you get from the original shit, the more best guess it is. Whereas Bobby comes from a section that was mostly settled by Polynesian Maori descended or Polynesian Samoan descendant individuals who then settled that section of Mars. So a lot of it, their accents, they don't explain it enough in the show, but there is reason why they have, like, again, he has that sort of draw. Because I said the same thing. I was like, why does this guy have this? Why does he have this cowboy draw?
Yeah, like what's going on here?
What's going
on here?
And to all of you, I say, quit judging books by their cover. Okay.
Well, I did, and I wasn't wrong. I was 21st century American.
Well, I will say this about Alex's character: he did with his crew what he couldn't do for his own personal life.
Yep.
And that was what made him compelling. Agreed.
Yeah.
That's that was his driving force, because he realized how much he fucked up with his real family. So he's like, I need to make sure that this actually is like legit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was having some type of redemption, because not all was lost. The show gave it some sense of hope that he had built a relationship with his son. His son was like, look, I'm still rocking with you. My mom may not be on the same page with you for obvious reasons, but I've heard what you've done. I want to join the Mars Navy or the Mars military, whatever, and follow you. You're my hero. So there was his redemption right there.
Yeah. Right. And then also I know, like, from D, was telling me, like, Alex is he's an integral character for the book. So he's through the whole situation.
Yeah, he's not dead in the books.
So and then they killed him off specifically because of the actor and all that. Mm-hmm. And then also they flipped it because, as Steve was telling me as well, Fred Johnson, he dies with a heart attack or a stroke. Doing a hard G burn. So they used that death from the book into the show for Alex to kind of get to wrap that up, which I thought was smart. And as I was saying before, like, they gave him a lot better of a send off than most other characters people do that are shitty characters. So it's kind of I give the writers props to being like recognizing, like, yo, Alex is a dope character. He's very integral. I personally would have been okay with the recasting, just because, like, it's a cool character and it's very central to the show. But the way they did it still made it work, and it was like,
well, they did it already, with a few characters. I'm like, because I literally didn't remember it. Like, I was like, wait, her husband did not look like that in the beginning. And then, and then I was gonna say, with like, I didn't know if he was dead, because like I didn't find out about the whole controversy off camera until I looked it up, because I was like, damn, this dude is he really dead? And so I paused and was like, let me just Google this, because I saw the scene and it didn't explain to me how he died until afterwards. Right. Because his last words was like, that was something like wild ride or something.
Run. Yeah.
Which is his favorite thing to say after life.
And then it just shows with blood in his nose, coming out of his nose. And I'm like, what? He died? Pause, Google. And then I find out all the other shit. I was like, oh, they just killed this dude off because of the politics behind it outside of the show. It wasn't necessary to move the plot, So
it wasn't.
They did well. I think they did it well enough as they could, and I think that made it work, because I think I'm curious. Like I said, if they would have kept him and then just recasted him for like the next season, for this last season, it would have been interesting.
Well,
it was also a little cold because dude was sitting in his chair. Drinking out his cup.
Yep, exactly.
Well, the thing about recasting this is that we are invested into Alex. We're not invested into Arasala's husband. He's a minor character. I just happen to notice it. But Alex, like, again, if Alex was a compelling character to you, Cam, then you would notice the change immediately and be like,
sure,
that next person won't be the same.
Right. Because he's going to perform it differently anyway.
It comes like when they recast the lead dude for Spartacus, it wasn't that the guy was a bad actor.
No,
it just did not land. It just wasn't the same. There's
about
that guy.
So I'm glad you mentioned Spartacus, because there's two things. Now, getting back to that point about Spartacus, it didn't bother me as much because I almost didn't notice it at first. Like, I noticed it, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Now, Arasala's right-hand man was one of the characters from Spartacus.
Yeah,
true.
Which I was like tripping. I was like, hold on. I was like, why does this guy look super familiar? And then I go back. He was like the fucking hated bad guy in Spartacus.
Yeah.
Wait, which one? The one from this season? The general guy, or
no. The liaison spy that died.
Oh, yes, I remember. Okay, yeah.
Fun fact: I still have Spartacus all on DVD. It was a good show with a lot of fucking problems, but I ate it.
It wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
The way it started The way it started was excellent.
Yeah, I was all about the show. I watched it so much that I bought the damn season DVDs, and I still have them. So
Yeah.
It was one of those good shows that also had something really bad happen to it, which was unfortunate.
Right.
Yeah.
And kudos to the production team. You know, they held out. They thought dude was going to get better. And so they were like, yo, we'll just make a whole other season.
Yeah, of the other dude.
And so we'll make a whole season, nothing to do with the original character, and wait for you to heal up.
Yeah.
In between. That's how much they like that actor.
So you know what's crazy about Spartacus? They got so many famous actors in there.
Yeah,
for such a whatever show.
Yeah.
And they were all naked.
All the time. They had Lucy Lawless.
Lucy.
What's the dude from The Wire? He was one of the elder gladiator statesman.
Yeah, and then also Law, she was in it too.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
same guy that played Littlefinger, I think.
Oh, Crixus, that dude. Yep. There's mad people in that show.
Mad people.
Shout out to Spartacus. Really. But I think the way they did Alex, it actually worked, and it was like, you know, everyone got to grieve within the show, and it was cool. You know, they had a little. Even Amos had his little, like, you know, all right, cool. I mean, he went out the way he should.
He's okay. He's completely.
But again, that's how Amos simplifies things. He almost is childlike, and it's easier for him to navigate in that world. To think that way because he doesn't make things complicated. He gets it, and he said that on multiple occasions to different characters, especially to Holden. It was like, you know, if you do it this way, nothing's going to bother you. You can move forward, and I don't have any reservations. And when they ask him questions, complex questions, he gives simple answers. And then they think about it and be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the best way to break down his character.
Yep. And he's like, that's why I think, and to, you know, wrap it, I think those individual characters make the show, and I think that their overall like hero's journey is super interesting. From like you watch the very first episode to this very last episode, like you see the growth of all the characters. And even like I said, like people that Bobby, Avasarala, like the way they come into it and then still kind of be a part of the quote unquote family, but more extended. You know, like you see it where Avasarala is kind of like, Holden. And now he's like, that's like one of her main counsels. Like she actually talked to him on some like, yo, I need you to go handle some shit. And same with Bobby. You know, Bobby was like a person of circumstance, but now that's like literally her right hand person. She kind of needs her for like that's pretty much her only real friend these days.
Yeah. And I just want. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
No, you first.
I was gonna say about Alex and his death. One of the things I always appreciate about any story, any narrative, is if it stays true to the continuity that it establishes. They had talked about characters potentially dying from hard burns, stroking out from the very beginning. Like they had literally teased it with Avasarala when they were running from the UN in season 2, and her nose kept bleeding, and Bobby kept having to stop. But to show it in a way and then use it to kill off a character that you I guess at that point you had to get rid of, it just added to the additional element of the fact that they actually do write the show extremely well. Like they take into consideration every little detail, and nothing is just shown for no reason or there for no reason.
And the science and the physics of the show.
Oh, it's just on another level, man.
So speaking of the G Burns, there is a season where they have some exposition about the guy that created that. Did he die? Did he like?
Oh yes. Yeah. I'm talking about Epstein. Oh yeah. He died on that mission.
Okay. Because it was like never clearly explained.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. You know, I didn't get it. But I was like, how did this? Because he was critical in getting to where we are now with his technology.
Right.
So I was like, did he survive? How did his technology survive? Because he took his technology with him in space.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out what happened to his story. It wasn't important, but I was just curious.
Yeah, he definitely, the tech and the information somehow got back to Mars. The research got back to his wife somehow because they published it, they created the drives, and that's why they call them Epstein drives. Because his name was something Epstein, Solomon Epstein, I think is what his name was. But yeah, he dies on that because he failed to do something, And once it hit that hard burn, I mean, I think at one point he was trying to call and it broke his arm or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like it was gnarly. But I think because he was younger, his body was able to hold out from stroking out so brain hemorrhaging so quickly. But Alex having to do that hard burn after just having done a bunch of hard burns to get close to Naomi for Bobby to get her, that did it for him.
Because they be juicing, right? They juice their brain or something.
Unlike your boy,
they do some kind of
unlike your boy who tried to go through the ring at top speed.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hey. So
that's my
shout out to that guy.
Hey,
that's my favorite part. I love it.
So that episode when it opened up, I text Josh. I was like, Josh, I saw the book. I laughed because it was so unexpected, but it gave context of what we were about to deal with for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Doors and corners, kid. They get you.
I sometimes love and hate these type of intros where you have this totally it was related, but it was unrelated.
Yeah.
To the main story, but it's just like a one-off. Like I don't know if you guys watch American Gods. Right?
Yeah, well, I watched the first season, but the first two, but I haven't watched.
I haven't seen the third. I don't think the third's out, but I read the book, so I understand your pain.
I read the book too.
Yeah. So I totally get it. But anyway, like every episode opened with some prehistoric or some story that not really related to. It's not concerning to the main story, but it has some relation to it.
Yeah.
And I love intros like that where you're just like, okay, now I can reference what the hell I was watching in the first part.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. And like when that happened to dude and he ran through the ring, I text Josh, I was like, yo, this is the craziest thing because they slowed it down and you saw all of it in technology.
Yeah, it was so glorious.
I loved it because I loved it because he was so excited and so like he was trying to impress old girl. And she had broke up with him. And got with his cousin or something like that, and then called him right before. It's like, yeah, if you do that, if you go through the ring, it's so all yours. That boy got excited. Boom! I was like, oh, because I saw that before I read it in the book.
So, if he'd went slow, would he have survived?
Yeah, he would have survived. But there was no way he could have known that.
Yeah, no one knew. Yeah. That was the first. That was like the first test of what they could do. That's part of the significance of that aspect of that story.
The other visual aspect of that and what it communicates is the real problem with humans, in that they were dealing with a piece of tech that they had no idea what it was or how it worked. And even on that small scale where he's just like, oh, I'm innocently flying through a wormhole, it's space, so what could it hurt? Boom, it kills you and repurposes all of your biological material. But you would, it's like someone I think used I don't know if they use this in the show, but it was used in the book, like monkeys playing with a microwave. That's pretty much the whole aspect of the overarching thing that you mentioned earlier, Cam, that like drives the narrative is that when we get technology, we don't know what to do with it, so we push it to the brink of where we fight over it, we kill over it, and then we'll sacrifice 1 million people until we understand how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the part of Expanse that I like, because it shows the follies of how we as humans look at a lot of different things, and which is in stark contrast to like a Star Trek or like those type of shows where they're like, hey, you know what, guys, you're right. We should all just hold hands, get this shit together, and all work to a common goal. Expanse is like, fuck that. Y'all niggas is poor. It's like, I got a shit.
Capitalism is alive.
Yep, capitalism is alive and well. It's like, we heard, apparently capitalism won.
Exactly. And we took it to space.
Yep, exactly. And so I think that messiness that they've kind of kept in the Expanse helps it to be. It sucks that a worse situation for people is more real. And then Star Trek, where they say utopia is fantasy, where we should be opposite, we'd hope. But I think that realism is the part that, like, you see the classism, you see, the hardships, you see the eliteness and all that kind of stuff. And so I think even the way, like we were talking about before about the skinny and that those like slurs and all that stuff still around, like all that. So,
but I think even present day Star Trek succumbs to some of that. You know what I mean? Like you watch Picard. Picard is definitely like hardcore. Like it's the exact opposite of everything we've seen up to that point.
Yeah.
You know, the universe is completely gone to shit. You know, all the utopia, the utopian society that they want that they thought they built was really just, you know, it was built on a foundation of not lies, but like just this of falsehood. And people are definitely more people-y in that far end of the Picard future where Picard is like 90 years old. Yeah, people are trash. People are still trash.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and watch Picard now with this new lens because, like, the first time around, it was like, you know, Picard is like, "Hey, man, we got to we're the Federation. We got to do this," and everyone's like, "Nah, man, shit sucks now."
Well, and
it's like Picard trying to convince everyone that there's an ideal.
And what's dope about that is he walks into as a retired Starfleet officer, he walks into the CNC's office on some, there's something about to go down. You know, I don't even need my admiral stars. Like, you can just bust me down to captain. It's cool, but it's more important that we deal with this thing because, you know, it's coming and we got to take care of it. And, you know, in good old Starfleet fashion, well, yada, yada, yada. And she was like, the effing hubris of this man.
That's the best scene.
You come into my office.
Yep, that was the best scene. She was cussing Picard. I was like, whoa.
Down no more. And then you do this interview. Like there was an interview that he did where he basically just takes a shit on Starfleet. And, you know, he was like, she was like, no, not only no, but get out of my office. Request denied.
Lost all privileges.
And I think that was sort of where you set the stage for, you know, without going too deep into the weeds on that. You know, it sets the stage for the Star Trek universe that they now reside in. It's not, you know, clean and pretty and utopian anymore. Like people are hectic and hectic things have happened and some dumb choices have been made and, you know, consequences.
Nine type shit. So I think that's a whole other podcast, fellas.
It's true. Why I said we're not going to get into the weeds. Yes.
Okay, so you know what? Let's wrap it. Let's do some final words. Josh, you want to do a final word?
The euphoria of that last episode of The Expanse has not fully worn off yet, but I'm on the precipice of saying that for 30 years, Babylon 5 has been the single greatest science fiction epic of all time, and I think it's been bested. I still haven't the newness and the crapness of that last episode of B5 last episode of The Expanse hasn't fully worn off yet, but I'm on the edge of saying that the greatest show that has ever existed for me has been bested. I'm just about there. I need more time. I need for the afterglow to sort of wear away. But I got a feeling when it's all said and done, I will feel like I'm in the middle of rewatching Babylon 5 right now. So maybe after I rewatch B5, be like, no, not yet. Y'all just slow down a little bit. We ain't there yet. But at present, hip deep in the middle of the big turn in Babylon 5. And having watched that finale for The Expanse, I'm really on the edge of saying that the greatest has been supplanted.
Nice.
That's how good. That's how good The Expanse is.
Cam, final word.
I don't have too much to say about it. Like I said, I came in as a really fresh, not knowing the history of The Expanse, but I say after one episode, I was hooked. I started binge watching it. That's just a testament to a good sci-fi show. I'm very critical about shows. I mean, and very critical about shows. I don't want to waste my time watching.
I hear you.
You know, a lot of crap. And you know, don't get me wrong. I watch certain crap that's near and dear to me, but then there's just certain shows I just don't have time to watch. And like I said, Josh put me onto this, and I watched it. And I don't watch too much sci-fi, even though I like sci-fi. I just haven't watched a good one. And this is a good one, well worth it. I've been recommending it to my friends and to those who hear this pod. I recommend you guys to watch The Expanse as well. That's my final word.
Nice.
Word. Yeah, my final word. Yeah, I would say I'm kind of with Josh on this. It still has a season to go, and it's easily top 3 sci-fi I've ever watched, just without even like blinking. And it still got a whole season.
Yeah.
And that's with Babylon 5 and Battlestar Galactica. Because I remember like D was talking about he's restarting Battlestar Galactica, and I'm like, I don't have the emotional energy. I just can't. They start with like what?
It's a lot.
Every episode they lose like 100,000 people, and like it's just dark, and like I don't know if I could do it. Like, so one of my friends was rewatching it, and I was just like, it takes you down. Like, it's depressing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's amazing. But Battlestar Galactica, you watch that once, I'm good. I could put it up on the top of all times and keep it moving. But I would definitely recommend it. I think Expanse, just from all of us storytelling narrative nerds, that aside from just sci-fi, I think it actually hits a lot of those notes, and it's a good masterclass in how to tell a narrative and how to do character structures and all that. So it's like people that are into film and into storytelling, like this is a really good class to kind of watch and just enjoy. And then if you're into sci-fi, like the science is so ridiculous, they get so sciencey with everything. And that's the part that is like, it makes it really, really, really cool. And then D, a resident expansologist.
Well, I think, you guys have pretty much covered like all the reasons to watch the TV series, especially to Cam's later point. If you are a writer or storyteller yourself, or especially with that genre, it is a masterclass on how to approach that material and build a story, a world with characters that is teeming with life. I would say I definitely highly recommend the show, but my last word is, if you guys can, anybody out there listening, and to all my fellow panelists here on the pod, if you guys can pick up those books, check them out. They're easy to read. They are a little, pagey, they have there's about 500 pages per book, but they are pretty fun to read. And if you enjoy the show, you'll enjoy the books more, because the world opens up even more. All those questions you have in the back of your mind of like, why this is this way or why that is that way. As soon as you read the books, it's going to be like, oh, and then you'll go back and watch the show, and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, like, wow.
Dope. All right, well, fellas, this has been the Expanse edition of the Table of Truth, and we out.
Peace.